Conference in Dubai, UAE. We bring together delegates from faith, civil society, science, and politics to care, to share, and to inspire. My name is Sonja Olsson. I am the coordinator of Brahma Kumaris environment activities, and I will be the moderator in tonight's discussion. So I have three distinguished guests with me here tonight: Charles McNeil from Interfaith Rainforest Alliance, Lydia Mashaka from SIDSTE, and Golo Pils from Brahma Kumaris. And I will introduce them as we go along. But first of all, warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Today, the largest COP ever has come to an end. They're actually still negotiating the final outcome of the conference, but we can hear cries of distress and despair for what might come. And the conference has also been criticized for having money at heart. But the outcome and the anticipated result we will discuss later in this session here tonight with our experts. And but first of all, let's get to know them a little bit, our guests here, and see what they have and why they're here. So I'll introduce you. Charles, you are for over 30 years been engaged in various UN departments to solve global environmental challenges, and you have focused on climate change and biodiversity conventions. You are currently the senior advisor for the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative in UNEP, and you have worked for UNDP, for RED, Indigenous Peoples' Rights, UN Declaration on Forest, and Religions for Peace. So most welcome.
Thank you.
Lydia, you are the Energy and Extractivism Officer at SIDSTE. And SIDSTE is the international family of Catholic social justice organizations based in Brussels. You're also specialized in environmental psychology, and you have participated in several UN climate change conferences, also as a climate justice coordinator, and you have years of climate action volunteering. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Golo, you joined Brahma Kumaris back in 1984, and you are an experienced meditation practitioner. And you're also the advisor on renewable energy to Brahma Kumaris. And you have carried out more than 25 research and development projects in solar cooking, energy storage, and thermal power generation. And in the last 15 years, we've been together at the Climate Change Conference, part of the delegation, and you advocate the value-based solutions. I'm also president of India Care Trust and initiator of the Yogis for Future meditation platform. So most welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
So Charles, as you all heard, the list of your engagement with the environment is very long, and both in biodiversity, climate change, forest. Let's hear your personal story. How come you got involved in this environment work in the very first place?
Well, I think I was very blessed to grow up in contact with wild nature and healthy nature in California and British Columbia. I experienced the wonders of living things. I loved the snakes and lizards of the world, and I felt that that's everybody's birthright to have that kind of experience. And I noticed the degradation of these resources, and I thought, I'm going to do all I can in my life to adjust and to deal with this. And so I studied conservation of natural resources at UC Berkeley, and I joined the UN 30 years ago at the beginning of the Rio Earth Summit. That was my first assignment when the Biodiversity Convention and the Climate Change Convention were created. And since then, my focus has been on implementing those conventions to have them be successful. And now 30 years later, it's remarkable to realize that when I started with the UN 30 years ago, we knew enough that we had serious challenges, and yet we haven't really dealt with those. Now, with a temperature increase of about 1.2 degrees above pre-industrial levels, we are facing the obvious challenges. We have a planet that's a world on fire and underwater at the same time. So this COP comes at an important time. And with regard to biodiversity, we are facing the 6th great extinction. The last one was when the dinosaurs were destroyed 65 million years ago. And the only difference is we're causing this one. So this is a time, a critical time, and I know we're waiting for the final decision from COP28 here, but already a lot has happened. I know we'll get to that coming forward, but that's how I got here, loving nature, experiencing nature, wanting everyone to have a healthy, clean environment to live in.
I'm nodding because I've had the same experience. I grew up in the Swedish forest, and I hear many people saying that the Swedish people's connection to nature is very special. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you need that kind of childhood experience of the nature in order to engage fully in climate change and biodiversity work. But if we had time, we will come back to that question. Yeah, Lydia, activism. I had to practice this word, actually.
The least are the ones who are unfortunately experiencing the most of climate change impact. So really, climate justice is really trying to call, especially those who contributed the most, to take responsibility and make sure that those who are affected or severely affected do not carry the most, the biggest burden of dealing with the consequences of climate justice. And really, extractivism, yes, it's a mouthful, but really, in essence, extractivism talks about the extraction of precious mineral resources, and mostly it's often exported for profit. But really behind it, it's really trying to question the current economic models that are sustainable. Because right now we talk of the economic systems that are fueled by fossil fuels, and we understand how much extraction of these mineral resources have actually caused the inequity that we see in society. We really see that as much as development is an important achievement for everyone, whether it's in the global north or south, the use of these mineral resources has been unsustainable. Hence, the issues with biodiversity and, so really extractivism is this economic model that together, maybe somebody can even call it capitalism, but it's the one that is really responsible for the current environmental and climate issues that we have. And for me, why am I here at COP? It's because we are, working for a Catholic social development organization. We have several demands, and which will come to, but we're really hoping that this COP will bring transformation. And when we talk of transformation, it's really, will this COP bring change in terms of, let me say, the use of fossil fuels, but also could the direction lead us in a way that the economic models also do not widen the gap between the rich and the poor.
Let me follow up on this note on personal responsibility, because in a sense we're all from a faith-based background. And what does SITSE do especially to increase people's personal responsibility? Maybe it's a question for all of you in a sense. What would make us take more personal responsibility? It's not happening, but we want it to happen.
Yes, I think for us what's very significant is in 2015 what the Pope has widely called, not only to Catholics or only to governments, but actually it was a global appeal to every individual on this planet to recognize the precious gift that God has given us. So through the encyclical Laudato Si, it was this exhortation where the Pope was first of all recognizing and appreciating and praising God for this gift of life and in the planet that God has blessed us with. And it's a reminder of people not to forget this, that it's a fundamental basis of recognizing and appreciating our existence on earth, not to, let me say, exploit the earth and tremble on it. So within SITSE, we are value-based, we respect such values. You know, there are others on solidarity and many others, but really the care for the common earth.
Yeah, care for the common earth.
It is something that we really value a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Golo, for more than 30 years you have worked with renewable energy, and it's been a great part of your life. What drives you to work with renewables as a meditation practitioner, and how can clean technology help us in the current crisis?
First, thanks, Sonia, for the possibility to be here on this panel today. And when I came first time to India, I think this was 1985, I saw this incredible opportunity of sunshine, and Rajasthan is a sunny state of India, semi-desert, semi-arid climate, you know, a lot of sun. And at the same time, there was the deforestation going on and lots of power cuts. And I had a little bit of knowledge of solar, not much, but a little bit. And I thought, wow, this would be the place for solar energy. And I was lucky at the right time, at the right space, and I could introduce the idea of solar technology to the institution. And Brahma Kumaris is administrated by women, which makes it very unique and very special. And they all said that's a very good idea. So the beauty of renewable energies is it's low emission, it's clean, it's future oriented, and it's also cheap. It's cheaper. And it gives you an independency from power cuts or from if fuels are available or not. And then also, of course, what interested me a lot was the technological aspect. I'm a bit of a technological person, so to build something and harness it and then improve it, make it better, you know, this is quite fascinating. You know, it's like a toy and you improve it, and it's nice. It's handiwork. At least at that time, it was a lot of handiwork. So we were lucky, and we introduced in Brahma Kumaris solar institutional cooking. We first tested some smaller cookers, then bigger ones. Then we built 1997, 96, we built a solar cooker for 1,200 meals per day. We got some funding from the German government, from GIZ. And then slowly, step by step, we got bigger. Then we introduced photovoltaic systems to our centers. Brahma Kumaris has 5,000 meditation centers in India. So we launched the idea and said, okay, here, this, that. And then we got some funding from Australian government, and we installed 60 systems all over India. And so we promoted the idea of photovoltaic power, then also solar hot water systems. Then we did India One, a 1 megawatt solar thermal power station, a 10 million euro project funded by German government, Indian government, and by the Brahma Kumaris. Specialities, we can store the energy for 24 hours. And this is the crucial point. Energy storage is the critical point in the transition to clean technology. All over the world, a lot of research is going on because you have to store the energy and make it available 24 hours. Sun shines in day, but I heard here in Dubai, the peak load is in the night because of the air conditions. It's quite interesting. So you need storage, and the crucial point, and we have solved it with India One. A big plant, and the latest project is biogas and waste management. India has a big waste problem. Now we are just right now setting up a biogas plant and segregating the waste, selling off plastic, selling off paper, and using the organic waste to produce biogas and run a generator. So it's a very nice win-win, and the sludge we are using then later as a fertilizer. We are also building right now a new solar cooker based on photovoltaic, an induction cooking system. So a lot of work is going on. And we do research, training, and we share our findings. And we believe if renewables are rolled out on a large scale, this will tremendously help the environment, because it's a clean technology and will reduce our carbon footprint also on a global scale. And I think this is one of the major demands also here at the COP, to triple investment into renewable energy sources. So it's a very valuable technology for the future. So that all brought me into the field and keeps me going.
Thank you for sharing your story. And actually, a few days ago, we visited the largest solar park here just outside Dubai.
Noor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it powers 25% of the country.
Yeah. So let's come back to you, Charles. I understand we are moving from the sun to the rainforest, and I understand the rainforest is very close to your heart. It's the home of 80% of all species, but also know that the tropical forests are being lost at the shocking rate of 11 football fields per minute. Scientists warned us the Amazon is approaching a dangerous tipping point, which happens when 25% of the rainforest is lost. Can you share with us the condition of the Amazonas and the rainforest and how crossing the tipping point would impact the global situation?
Yes, although fossil fuels is the largest source of emissions, tropical forests are also incredibly important in the equation. Without protecting them, there's no way to solve this climate crisis. In fact, if tropical forests were a country, the loss of tropical forests would be the third largest emissions after the US and China. So it's enormous. And paradoxically, if those same forests are protected and restored, they can be a major source of the solution of the climate crisis and a solution to the biodiversity crisis. So tropical forests not only are the home of millions of species, they provide services of all kinds. They protect our food system and provide fresh water. So the question is, what's driving the loss of these forests? And if you look at it, it's actually the food system. 3/4 of all the forest loss is due to an agricultural system that's failing us. In the Amazon, in fact, 80% of all the loss of those tropical forests is because of beef, the production and feeding of beef. That's cattle and soy, 80%. In Brazil, I just saw some figures yesterday, up to 95% of all the loss of the Amazon in Brazil is due to beef. So that obviously tells us something we can do about it. And so let's look at that Amazon. The Amazon is the largest tropical forest in the world. It's about 3 million square miles, twice the size of India. And as you say, since the 1970s, 18% of that forest has been lost. And if we get into the 20 to 25% loss, we're likely to head into a downward spiral to go from lush tropical forest to dry savanna with tremendous impacts. Right now, those Amazon forests hold 123 billion tons of carbon. If that goes up, the impact on the climate will be catastrophic. And the driver there too, of course, is our food system. The Amazon through the process of transpiration, puts enormous amounts of water into the atmosphere to produce flying rivers that feed the agriculture, not only locally, but half a world apart. So if the Amazon is still lost, it'll have a devastating impact on food production, on any energy production, on the well-being of people all over the world. The Amazon is key to the future of this planet of ours, and fortunately, the current administration in Brazil is doing amazing things. Just in the last 11 months, they've decreased the deforestation rate by 50%. The solutions are there. Between 2004 and 2012, Brazil reduced its deforestation rate by 84% while increasing food production. It's a matter of legislation, enforcing the laws, providing incentives, protecting land, and giving rights to indigenous people. We know how that's done. But we also have to remember that we are the source of that deforestation. We buy deforestation through our beef, through our forest products, through our mining products. So we have to be responsible for reducing our impact on that. And by shifting our diet, that's probably the most important thing we can do. More plants and less meat is what the IPCC tells us is needed. It so happens what's good for our own bodies is good for the planet.
Thank you. Amazing figures. And I'm happy to say I'm vegetarian for over 45 years now. And I'm at home, I'm more or less vegan also. So that's good. And I hope it's the same with all of you. But these shocking figures about the Amazonas and feeding the cattle.
And the good news is 3 times a day we can make a contribution to both the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis. And it's good for us and good for the planet, it's a no-brainer. It's a win-win-win.
3 times a day. Yeah. Maybe that leads us to next question for you, Lydia, because we have to change our habits, right?
Yes.
And you have a background in environmental psychology.
Yes.
And it is a growing field, especially amongst the younger generation who need help to come to terms with a different future than we are looking towards. And there are many organizations in this field, Climate Psychology Alliance, for example, which I know a little bit from the UK. So tell us more about environmental psychology. What is it exactly?
Yes, environmental psychology is the study of the interaction between humans and non-humans, so nature. It's really often divided into different disciplines where you investigate human behavior. First of all, I liked your question earlier on when you asked about why is it that it seems like people who were exposed to nature tend to care about nature a lot. And so this is some of the questions that are really concerning environmental psychologists who really want to come into the discussions to really get to the root of solving the problems. So environmental psychology tries to understand ways where we can improve pro-environmental behaviors. So behaviors that shifting them from not being unsustainable to sustainable behaviors. And also there is also in the field of understanding social change and social influence as well. We do understand that indeed there are some behaviors that are positive, that are sustainable, and they're now trying to see what is it that we can do in a group setting to influence people. Do people conform to norms? So there's various dynamics, various factors that we look at, like, for example, as I indicated, norms. Can we use social norms to encourage people? Can we use values? Can we use faith values, for example, to encourage people to take care of the environment? There is still also a division around decision-making process, because let me say over the years, indeed, the science is improving, indeed, but there's just so much information overload. There's this factor, a lot. So what is this doing into a human mind? Yeah, indeed, we are becoming more technologically advanced as well. So there are studies and theories that really do say that the more the future becomes uncertain, so when the situation changes to become more uncertain, people become more risk averse. So they really don't want to make, they're afraid to make decisions that will really threaten, their existence. Sometimes I thought that would be, let me say, will result into people actually taking action. But sometimes it happens that it creates inaction. So it's not always a straightforward understanding of decision making, but yes, that's another field. And also there is a field of psychology that also tries to understand the impact of the interactions that we have with nature on our well-being. So that's the health part of things. And I think many people during the health pandemic might have seen that without any interaction with nature, or actually some people have found that because the human to human interaction was limited with social distancing, a lot of people found healing when they then interacted with nature. So nature is indeed not important for addressing emissions, but it's also restorative in this kind of sense. And the final part of environmental psychology deals with design. It's really, sometimes it's called architectural psychology, where psychologists also partner together with architects to really understand. The more industrialized we go, it seems like for some people, industrialization means more buildings. And that separates us a lot from nature. So the future is the psychologists also are trying to make sure that when we develop, or the more industrialized we become, that we create a balance between built environments and natural environments. So hence sometimes you see national parks and where people do engage. So that's the role of environmental psychology.
Thank you for shining light on them.
Yep.
Actually, sometimes when I do workshops on the environment and nature, I ask people to take their socks off and go barefoot in the grass. And the outcome on such a workshops is always very different than if you sit indoors. And I think some part of climate psychology also happens outdoors to connect to nature.
Indeed.
And as we are on the soft topics on the environment, I will ask you, Golo, you have actually been the anchor on most of our sessions here in the Climate Wisdom Studio, and you had the idea in the last COP27 in Egypt to create this Wisdom Studio. And this, as I said, is now the last of our 14 sessions of caring, sharing, and inspiration. How can meaningful conversations like we have here, Golo, contribute to overall effort of securing a sustainable future for us?
I'm very happy that you mentioned about information overload. And when I'm going to some scientific conferences or go to the COP, quite often I can see that there's a very specific knowledge point being narrated, and it's often quite fragmented, quite specialized, and it's sometimes also quite difficult to understand. For a layperson, sometimes this is like a different language. So often science is a bit fragmented and also a bit isolated, and I feel it is very important to build a bridge that scientific findings can be translated into action and the lay people understand it. So the idea of the studio was to bring together people from different backgrounds, also from science, but also from spirituality or from psychology, and discuss, have a meaningful conversation, which is in a way also transformative, you know, for the listeners, for the people, but also for us also. And so that a change is happening. And from a spiritual viewpoint, it is very important that the change also happens on the inside. That I understand it is my habits. And again, science tells us it's a neuronal programming, you know, like from your childhood, you like a yellow color. And so you buy a yellow car. And now you hear the yellow car is bad for the environment, but you still buy it because you have learned it from childhood. So how to change these habits, which are very deep rooted and which are almost fixed in our brain. And there I feel it is so good idea to be interdisciplinary and bring in these soft topics, spirituality, the mindset, which actually drives us and actually subconscious actually controls us. It's quite interesting. Most of our decisions are taken subconsciously. And here, I feel it's very important that we connect to our true inner self, and our actions are based on a strong ethical and moral foundation. And that's, I think, where humanity has a little bit deviated from the path over quite some time. And it's very important to bring these qualities back into the whole equation and propagate a holistic approach to solve the crisis, because we can see science is very clear. Since 30 years, this is COP28, you know, and still we are debating, should we phase out fossil fuel or not, you know, and the future of humanity is at stake. Can you imagine? It's like unbelievable. So we need also that inner dimension, and we have to recognize it. And I think the studio here is one small seed in that direction, to bring together people from different backgrounds, bring in this inner dimension, and allow people to connect to their inner goodness. And when you connect to your inner goodness, and everybody is doing that, then our collective actions will change. Then we will take care of the rainforest, we will take care of climate justice and all these kind of things. It boils down at the end also to love. You know, you love yourself, and you love the world, you love the nature, and what you love, you take care. So that's very, very important. And so these are all bit the ideas which are a bit in the background, which at the end the studio came out and I had no idea what will happen. And it actually worked out quite well.
So thank you.
And I'm a bit sad this is the last session.
So to all your listeners, all the 14 sessions are on our YouTube, so you're welcome to follow them. But let's move now from the soft topic back to COP28, back to the conference, back to why we're here. and let's hear about the anticipated outcome, what happened of significance in the COP that has just come to an end today. And same question for all of you, and you can start, Charles.
Great, yes. It's been extremely important. A couple of things that I've noticed. One is that for the first time, the transformation of the food system is very much on the agenda here. That there was the Emirates Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture, Resilient Food Systems, and Climate Action. There was the Declaration on Climate and Health, and that's extremely important. As I mentioned, our food system is driving a third of all the emissions. It's causing 80% of all the loss of species. It's driving a health crisis of enormous proportions. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer driven by a failed food system that's putting huge pressure on forests and driving environmental decline. So having this formally on the agenda is extremely important development here. Also, along with that is that for the first time in the COP that I recall since my 30 years of participating, there was a lot of attention on plant-based foods, healthy plant-based foods. That's miraculous. You think that would have been an innovation 30 years ago, but better late than never. Also, the Faith Pavilion. I've been working with religious leaders for the past 6 years on this issue in the sense of bringing a moral and ethical priority to the tropical forest issue has been something that through the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative that's been extremely powerful and effective. And here, for the first time, there's a faith pavilion. Thousands of religious leaders from around the world have come and are starting to exert their moral authority, their political influence, their economic power on behalf of these issues. In addition, I think the indigenous peoples and youth had a voice here in a strong way. And I think the final point that I would say is that the focus on phasing out oil, gas, and coal is absolutely essential. 3/4 of all the pollution that's causing climate change comes from the fossil fuel industry. That has to happen. That here we're sitting here waiting for those final decisions within the next few hours. But whatever happens, that needs to be a focus. That needs to be a priority.
We're all waiting for the results. And I know I'm issuing a challenge to you to summarize a conference of 2 weeks in a few minutes. But I know you will try your best. So thank you for that summary. And Lydia, you?
Yes, well, I wanted to say you almost took my words out of my mouth, especially when it regards to fossil fuel phase out. But for me, it's very encouraging to see, since COP26 in Glasgow, that the discussion really around phasing out fossil fuels has begun. This COP28, almost 30 years of really trying to find the right language or even action to address climate change. So for me, I think it was a first move in Glasgow, but really COP28 really needs to deliver. It's not yet too late, even though it's the final day of COP officially. But I think, I often like to think of the former President Nelson Mandela of South Africa, who said it's never too late until it's done. So I think this is the final hour, and I still believe and remain hopeful that something positive could still come for me. But I still wanted to acknowledge the first thing that was positive right at the beginning of COP, the operationalization of this new fund. So in essence, there was a fund, but which mechanisms can make this fund work? So for me, it was very encouraging to hear when we speak of climate justice that indeed that aspect of operation or making this funding operational was achieved. So we really need to recognize the effort that the global leaders have done. But at the end of the day, we still need fossil fuels to be out. And we recognize what the Pope has said also at the beginning of COP to really phase out fossil fuels. If this would, could be the ways of encouraging, global leaders as well. For the sake of everybody, I would encourage global leaders as well to put aside national interest. Really, what is very important is the outcome of COP is to really focus on the common good. And this is something that I would like just to end with for COP, that we're looking for a decision that would really preserve the common good, and phasing out fossil fuels would be something that we're looking out of, together with the success that we have seen so far.
Thank you for that beautiful summary. Great. Golo?
Well, all the good things, what happened at COP, have been mentioned by you already. Yes, food production and its carbon footprint is on the agenda, which is very good. Public health has also been mentioned and addressed. That is also very good. And loss of damage has been operationalized. Yes. And I'm from Germany, and Germany was one of the initiators with the seed money together with UAE. And so these are quite positive aspects. I also like to mention the faith pavilion. I think it's the first time there's a faith pavilion, and it seems that there is a growing recognition of the power of faith community. I think 84% of all people in the world believe in one or the other faith and religion, and so it's a great force. And 84%, if they would unite, it would be so powerful. So these are all good signs. However, I'm an old veteran of COP negotiations. I have been now since 2009, I think 15 or 16 COPs, and sort of gone through all this routine, you know, like these conferences, it's always going up, going down, then some declaration has to be done. We also have to see how funds will be made available, and all these declarations are brought into action, which is measurable on the ground. And this has to be supported by thorough funding. And that's where usually it gets a bit nitty-gritty. Even the loss and damage fund comes late and is underfunded right now. I think America has promised $17 million, which is seeing what damage they have caused. And they're the biggest, I think, oil producer in the world, which is not that much known, but they're the biggest. It's quite a little amount. So we have to see how this COP translates into action. The big issue, of course, is also loss and damage, and is the phasing out of fossil fuels, which is still going on. And the negotiators are right now sitting in the negotiation hall and discussing it, and maybe it will become another night session. So we have to see that outcome. And we can see also on the other side, there are powerful forces which are trying to keep the status quo as it is. And I see that now since quite some time, since this is COP28, this is going on. And I hope that, as I mentioned before, there will be a synthesis or an understanding that the change has to come from the inside, from all of us, that we need a paradigm shift on the inside. We have to connect to our self, to the divine, and bring ethics and morals to the foreground. And then everything will become very easy. And I can see now small steps in this direction. I can see, let's say, seeds of hope at the COP, faith pavilion, and religious organizations trying to overcome their differences. So I can see some hope from that side. Practical, I want to see how things are happening on the ground in terms of funding, which is always the crucial point. So overall, let us see what will come out.
Yeah. Let us see, and this brings us towards the end of our conversation, and we will do a guided meditation here very soon, and maybe we can use that for sending some good vibrations to the negotiators and sending light to the outcome and the final declaration. So thanks for sharing your anticipation, your hopes, and your whatever you wish for this conference. Before we end, we have a tradition of wishing our best for the planet in one word. If you were to summarize your good wish for the planet and for the future of the earth in one word, what would it be? Yeah.
Harmony.
Harmony for you, Golo.
Restoration.
Restoration.
Alignment and cooperation.
Alignment and cooperation. How beautiful. Thank you very much. And let's end this beautiful conversation with a reflection. And we can sit together for a few minutes and reflect. So I'll ask Olo to do that.
Yes, thank you, Sonia, very much. So let us sit relaxed and let us concentrate. We are beings of light. We're sitting in the forehead. And I connect to the divine, to the light. I connect to the ocean of peace and the ocean of love. And this love nourishes me and fills me with love and peace. I'm now sending love, peace, compassion, harmony, and restoration to the COP negotiators. They're sitting, the delegations are sitting in the big hall right now, and they're discussing over the small words, over the commas and the brackets, and let them find solutions benefiting the planet. I'm also sending love and compassion to the earth, which is suffering, which is burning or being drowned in floods. I'm sending love and compassion to all the souls, all my brothers and sisters around the world, which are affected by climate change or by conflicts, and which are suffering under these circumstances. My love, peace, and compassion I send to them. I also send love and peace and wishes of restoration to the forests of the world, to the reefs, to the animals. I'm holding this planet in my hand, and I'm sending love and peace to the whole world, to the whole planet. And I see how the planet is being touched by light, how we are all being touched by divine light. And I see this planet changing into a beautiful blue, green planet of harmony, love, and cooperation. This is the wonderful world of harmony we all would like to establish, and which we are going to establish with our good intentions. Love and peace and compassion. I'm sending it to the world, sending it to the COP, sending it to the nature. And this brings the transformation. I am love, I am peace, and I am compassion. This is my true nature, and this is my duty in these times of crisis. Slowly I'm coming back and keeping these feelings with me. Keep them strong in my heart, so they are with me all the time, and I can use them when I need it. Thank you very much, and Om Shanti.
Thank you for that beautiful reflection. And this is now the end of the session, so special thanks to you. If we were not live, we will give you an applaud, but now you get our deep felt thanks, and also for staying one extra day in Dubai to come to this session, and for your inspiring contributions. So to Charles, to Lydia, to Golo, thank you. And to you, the global audience, thank you for being with us online and listening. And a special appreciation to our volunteers here and to the hosting of Raj Yoga Center here in Dubai, and to our patrons and sponsors, and to all of you who made this Climate Wisdom series possible. And as next climate change conference has been decided to go to Baku in Azerbaijan, we are definitely going to go there, and we will set up another series of climate wisdom, care, share and inspire. Exactly the details we don't know yet, but we will be live there for you in next climate change conference. So follow us and you get the latest update on our webpage, www.echo.brahmakumaris.org. So thank you and goodbye from Dubai. Goodbye.